Welcome to The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, a Let's Play with Link6616, my awakening as a Let's Player. So, I had planned to show you the pre-recording of this, but I managed to muck up my microphone, so I said a lot of really nice stuff that never really got covered, so that you'll never see, and you'll miss out eternally on what I was like at this dungeon before I played through this time. So, I guess? Anyway, the next dungeon, I'm going to show what a prepaid looks like, and that basically is where I practice how to run through a dungeon quickly, because while I can remember these dungeons very well, I try and play through once in advance just to ensure that I do know how they're structured and have a few things to comment on. So one of the things that I do like about this dungeon is, much like I mentioned in the previous episode, it clearly establishes what your need is. You're going to cover water somehow. Sadly, methods to get around water are pretty simple. It's very, very obvious that you're going to get flippers or some kind of device that lets you go through water. And there's nothing wrong with water-based devices, or even water-based dungeons. It's just that this is inherently a lot less interesting, I think, than many other options. Also, interesting note for those who like the Pegasus boots. So you auto-equip certain items as you run, so you know, obviously sword, but if you have the shield, it triggers the same reaction. Which I think is kind of cool, although I don't really foresee all that many situations where being able to run through as a... I'm trying to think of what the appropriate term would be. Not a phalanx, but some kind of defensive warrior. Oh, of course, I need another key, don't I? In theory, this is what pre-playing is supposed to avoid. But I don't think it should be too troubling to obtain an extra key. What's here? Probably rupees, I imagine. A stone beak. Anyway, so why are water dungeons sort of inherently less interesting, I guess is the way. Or not water dungeons, but flipper type dungeons, which I don't think there are too many of in Zelda history. And I think it's because the item itself doesn't inherently change the rules. Like, it sort of removes a rule really, in that you can't move in water. Because now you can move through deep water. Which suddenly opens up a lot of areas, but doesn't really change what you could do in an organic way. It's a very binary, this is a place you couldn't go before, because there was water. But now, water is just like walking, but slower and less fun. Because water always is less fun, even though we like going to the beach. The only game I can think of that really captured the joy of swimming, I think, off the top of my head this is actually Majora's Mask in Zora. That Zora made swimming a joy. Sure, draw distance underwater and the actual walking on the bottom of the ocean floor felt awkward. But compared to everything else we've ever had with swimming, it actually felt like a joy to be underwater. Just that sheer fun. Well, not fun, but that, you know, exciting feel that comes with just going fast underwater and having all this control. A lot of people make swimming more like the feeling of being, you know, trapped and slow. Whereas I think for many people, swimming is a lot closer to flying, of all things. If that makes any sense, like, you know, when you're swimming, you're free, you can do so many different things. And sure, if you're crap at swimming, you won't be able to do that kind of thing. But even basically, just that sort of feeling of just being able to move while lying down, almost, is kind of thrilling, and it's something that video games have never really managed to capture successfully. Now, some nice foreboding here. This is actually a not a terribly deep moment, but it's a nice one. So we have a pit, and it's fallen through, and we've seen that something's fallen through. When we got the key for the Angler's Cavern, or whatever this dungeon's called again, we actually could fall through something. So we've seen now a few times that you can go through floors. Here's some stairs down. Oops. Oh well, it's only damage. Here we have a key. Obviously. Can't get it. Does that not hurt me? Apparently not. I didn't know that water didn't hurt you. Anyway. It's only drowning. Why would that hurt anyone? Have I really got double? Do they stack? I'm so glad the music doesn't stack though. That would be such a pain if we got this music like in double with itself. Right, and some more of these things. I wonder what they're called. I really should do that research. But that requires caring about the lore of the Zelda universe. I've seen enough angry discussions on the internet to know that is a pitfall I want to avoid for a long, long time. In my pre-play, I totally forgot about that room for a little while. It was very, very important, as it's how we get to the boss room. So, I also mentioned in the previous episode about this idea of showing where rooms might be. This is a great example of that. That is a room we need to be in, that we can see now, and we know that we're going to need a stairway to do it. So that means that where we've seen stairways in previous parts of the dungeon, we'll want to keep an eye out for. I think those kind of techniques are what really separate good dungeons from bad dungeons. Now, I could solve this puzzle now if I really wanted to, because you can just make some of these jumps. Actually, yeah, what the hell, I'm going to solve it now. Because it makes me look brilliant. Despite this meaning I've just done it before. But I missed that. Oh well, we'll do it later then. I look less brilliant, but oh well, I can cope with that. And past we go. Can't go up there. So time to go around and get our dungeon item. Now you've probably guessed based on what I've been saying that it's the flippers. And I've been taking a little bit down on the flippers, I guess, given that I think it's not really all that inherently interesting. But I think that water is a very natural obstacle, and so it makes sense for a designer to use that as a reason. Those are the stairs we need, by the way, that are alluded to by the boss room placement. Anyway, sorry. So flippers are not an inherently interesting item, is sort of their issue as a dungeon sense. In a world sense, water helps make the world feel more alive, and it makes sense that your average human character is not actually capable of doing as much in the water as they are outside of it. So while water isn't fun, I think it's a very useful tool for establishing a world better. I'm sure there's a more effective way to do this, boss. I just somehow can't think of it right now. And it works. So, interesting note, while I'm not 100% confident on this, I think this is the only mini-boss in this game where the warp is actually not in the center of the room. Someone can go and check past videos and when I finish the future videos and prove me wrong on that, I'm sure. But I think it's kind of nice. I don't know what I feel about this particular kind of puzzle mechanic. In this instance, this is the introductory version of it. It's not supposed to be complex. It's supposed to provide me a version of the system I can play with, safely, to interpret what it is. But do not just point out, oh Link, this is a switch you should pull. Which is what annoys many people about modern Zelda games. So now we have the flippers. So, we've seen this before. It's guaranteed that we've seen this room that we've seen this setup of 5 things before. And that's what I really like about this particular puzzle. Even though it's not a particularly deep puzzle, it sort of shows an understanding of how to introduce people to things, which I think is what Zelda's always actually done really, really well. They've introduced ideas without needing to overly explain them. Later ones did not trust the player as much as this game does. You know, it's a simple puzzle. You have a shiny thing, and you follow the shiny thing. And it opens a door. That's very simple. But what's clever about it is that these are arranged in pretty much the same pattern, just down here. Which actually does matter. Because it demonstrates to us what this actually should be and how we're supposed to go about solving it. And I mucked that up again. That's right, now I remember why you can't solve it by yourself. You need to walk to each of them, I think. Well, not walk, but I think jumping stuffs it up or something. Anyway, whatever it is, that's it done. However, we don't need that right away. You remember that key that we foreshadowed? Well, we're going to go collect it. Anyway, pre-play, I got stuck for a while trying to track down the key. Oh, we'll open this chest. It's probably just rupees, but being wealthy is fine. I mean, who doesn't want to be wealthy? Actually, wait. I don't have the nightmare key yet, do I? No, I don't. That's supposed to be what the pre-play's for. Oh, wait, no. I'm missing a step here, aren't I? Because piece of power. So the thing I went through, that I said I didn't need to go through right then, is actually the exact thing I need to be doing. I should have done just then, because that is where the boss key is, and that is where I need to be. Now again, we haven't seen these before, but we established very clearly in a very Mario-like fashion that these are things that go down when you do them, and you can trigger them and then walk safely underneath them. And right here we have another one, not so safe because there's not such clear blockades, and there's a ledge there, which indicates that you could probably jump onto it because you obviously need to cross somehow. It's a subtle thing, but I think setting up something first, just demonstrating in a safe environment, and then repeating that in a slightly more complex environment is really how you go about establishing the mechanisms that the game can use for puzzles. Because you can't throw a puzzle and a set of systems out there without an example if you want players to easily understand them. Which is why the Zelda games, I think it's why people like them. And it's also why people complain about the newest ones, because the games don't trust their players to actually say, or to actually go, yep, I see how that works, I understand what the game wants me to do. And it's why in particular Fee, I think her name was in Twilight Princess, sorry, in Skyward Sword was particularly annoying in that she would explain every single thing. And games like Solitaire Robo, which are clearly inspired by a bunch of mechanics in Zelda, just insist on their players not being capable of doing things. As adults, you generally don't want something too obtuse because you don't want your time wasted. As a child, you want a world that you can explore richly that doesn't frustrate you, but you often have the time to figure things out. So even if you are aiming your game at a child, I think oversimplifying it and simply explaining everything can be just as annoying for children, because it removes their ability to... Why aren't I getting bomb arrows? There we are, bomb arrows. Anyway, that's the boss done. That's very, very quick, because bomb arrows are pretty amazing. In my first run through in this boss, I actually had a piece of power, and I still use bomb arrows, except I actually got them each time I pressed the button, which was nice. Anyway, well, that was very fast. Well, it feels very fast. At least I was very well paced in my talking. So I hope that you've enjoyed my guest bagging, and I hope you enjoyed this dungeon. And next we shall meet the Mad Batter again, and get 2 catfishes more. My road goes into the bay. Well, actually no, let's not stop here. Let's do one more thing. Let's get a song. We'll get on to what that's the purpose the song serves later. It's ultimately not essential, it's just a nice little tidbit, but I think it's nifty to have. Anyway, so we start in the right spot next time. That's not how I press the buttons. So we start in the right spot next time. Thank you for watching.